Do you know how to get word count or remove punctuation in Power BI? If not, then please keep watching as I will show you step by step on how to get both the word count and remove punctuations. Hey everyone, it's Radhika. Welcome back to DataZard. Today we're going to be solving Workout Wednesday 2021 Week 30 Power BI Challenge, which is around removing punctuations and counting words. And we are going to be creating this visual. There is this blog by Chris Webb, which is provided in the challenge. And I'm going to be using the same step which Chris has mentioned in this blog to calculate the word count and also to remove punctuations. And I'll explain each step in detail when I'm going through it. So let us jump into our Power BI report. I am in my Power BI desktop, and the first thing that we need to do is click on transform data so that the Power Query editor will open up. Now in Power Query Editor, we will go to New Sources and click on Blank Query. Now let us go to Advanced Editor so that we can define the steps. So I'll click on Advanced Editor, and the first thing that we need to do is define the URL. So I will name this URL, and that will be equal to the URL from which we have to fetch the data from. And this is already given in the challenge, so I'm using this. Next, I will add a comma and then define the source. So now we need to get the contents from this URL. So we're going to use web.contents and give this URL. But this web.contents returns data in binary form. So we need to get text from this binary, which is why we are going to use text.from_binary. So I will enclose this in a bracket and write text.from_binary. And now this will give me the entire contents of this URL. And now I will return this source and click on done. And then we can see that all the data which is contained in that URL is now returned here. Now, if you will see the data, you can see that some of the letters are capital letters, some are lowercase letters, and Power BI will treat project with capital P and project with lowercase p as two different things. So we will need to convert all this text into lowercase format. And for that, let us again go to our advanced editor. And as next step, we will call this next step lowercase. And to convert this source text into lowercase, we will use text.lower and we will give this source. Because we need the lowercase text, so we were going to return this step. So I will copy this and return this. And when I click on done, we can see that all the uppercase letters have been converted into lowercase. Now we need to remove punctuations, and one way is to give a list of punctuations and then do a remove text. But this is not a very efficient way as we can't possibly define all the punctuations easily. So the best approach will be to give Power BI a list of acceptable values and then ask Power BI to select only these values and discard any which are not present in this list. In order to do this, we will have to define a list, and for us the list would be a list of all the letters from A to Z, and because we have converted everything into lowercase, so it will be a list of all lowercase letters from A to Z, and also spaces because we need to accept the spaces as well so that we can define this is a word boundary. So check and then a space means it's a different word. To show this, let us again go to advanced editor and I will show you this step by step. So let us call this remove punctuation and let us first define a list. So a list would be, we will have to define this curly brackets and it will be A and then you add two dots and do Z. So when you do that, Power BI will create a list of all the letters from A to Z. And now because I have to include space as well, so I will give another list which is of single spaces, and I will do list.combine so that we can combine these two lists. And let us enclose this in brackets. Now when I click on done, we get a full list from A to Z and then we get a space added to this list. So both of these lists have been combined by Power BI. Now all we need to do is we need to tell Power BI to select only these lists from the text that we have given. So again, going back to our advanced editor, and we will have to use text.select. We need to ask Power BI to select only this text. From where we need to select it? So we need to select it from the lowercase, which is the last step that we have done. And the second argument should be list of acceptable values. And then I will close the brackets. Now, when we do this and click on done, all my text just includes the letters from A to Z and spaces. So all the punctuation marks have now been removed. Now we have removed all the punctuation marks, and the next step is to get the word count. In order to get the word count, we will have to split each text in its separate line and get it in the form of a list so that we can count it. So let us again go back to our advanced editor. I will add a comma so that we can add a next step. And I will call this next step split text. And what we need to do is we need to split this text by white space. What does this mean is any white space, which is like a space, a tab, if Power BI finds any white space, it will split the word. For this, we are going to use a function called splitter.split by white space. And inside it, we need to give it code style. So what it needs to do when it finds something which is written in quotes, and we will code style none, which means we don't have to have a special action done on quoted text. And the reason being, we have already removed all the quotation marks because they come as punctuations. So we will do code style none. And now when I return this step, it gives me as a function. And now we need to pass what we need to split as the parameter. And for that, let us again go back to advanced editor. And I will call this split into words. And we need to use this split text function. And we need to pass this remove punctuation text to it, which means we want this text to be split by white spaces. So this function will create a function, and in this function we are passing this argument so that we can say that this is the text from which we need to split the data. And now instead of passing split text, I will pass this as the output and click on done. And when we do that, we see a list of all the words one by one. Now we have to remove any blank spaces from this list. So for that, let us again go to home and advanced editor. And I will call this step remove blanks. So what we can do is we can provide what are the list of acceptable things and do list.select. So I will do list.select. We want to select from which list. So it is split in words. This is the list from which we need to select things. We need to do this for each row and for any current item which is not equal to a space. So we need to select any item which is not equal to space and keep it in the list. And now we will again give this list back. You wouldn't see a difference here because not all the rows are shown, but Power BI has removed any element which is just a space from this list. When we click on done, this is the final list. Now we will convert this list into table, and for that, let us again go to advanced editor and add a new step which is called table from list. All we need to do is table.from columns, and we need to provide the list which needs to be converted into a table. Then the type should be defined as a table, and then we need the column name as word, so we will just write word and it will be of type text. So this will be the column name. We are converting the remove blanks list into a table, and I will just return this as the last step and done. Made a mistake here. I have not given this as a list because it was just a column. So I need to provide this as a list. And when I press enter, I get the full list. And this is in the form of a table, which we can see via this icon. Now we have got this column in this table and we need to group these values so that we can get a count. So again, going back to my advanced editor, adding another step, and we're calling this find word counts. That will be equal to, we need to do a table dot group by. So table dot group What we need to group is the first argument is a table. So this is the table. Then we need to give the key, like which column are we going to use. So we need to use it by the word column that we have defined in the previous step. And then we need to define how do we want to aggregate it. So I will give this as a list. I want to call this column as count. So this is the column name. And for each row, we are going to do table dot row count. Of the current item in that list, and we need to give type as number. So all we are doing is we are doing a table dot group. We are giving this table because this is the table we want to group. The column that we need to group by is the word column that we have created in the previous step. Then we are giving the new column name as count, and what it will do is it will just count the number of rows in which this current item is present, and the type of this column would be number. And now we are going to return this final word counts and click on done. We get all the word count. So project comes 68 times in this text, ebook comes 11 times. So this will give you the word count of all the words present in this text. Going back to our challenge, we have done all the steps from here till here. Now, the next thing that we need to do is we need to retrieve a list of all the stop words from this link, and then we need to remove these stop words from this list. So I have already downloaded the CSV file, and I will import the CSV file into Power BI report. And for that, let us go to new sources, text and CSV, and I'll find my CSV file and open it. I will just click on OK. And these are the exclude words. With exclude words, I will rename this column. So I will call this stop words. Now we need to exclude them. And for this, we need to exclude it from query 1. So I will go to query 1, click on advanced editor. So I will call this merged queries. We will use table.nested join so that we can see what tables do we want to join. And we are going to use left join so that we only include tables from find words and not from exclude words, and we're going to this table as the first argument so that this becomes our first table. So I will use find words. Then the key that we need to give is the column words that we have created. Then the next table that we need to give for join to happen is exclude words, and the key there is stop words because this is what we have renamed the column as. Now the column that we need to create would be exclude words. Let's just name it like this. The join kind that we need to do is left anti, which is we're just going to include the words which are present in final counts and exclude that are coming from exclude words. When I return this, we will only have words which are not present in exclude words. I'll just have to ignore the privacy levels and click on save. And now we can just remove this column. So I will just remove it. So now these are the words that are included in the text, and these are the counts, and we have removed all the stop words. So now we have done all the Power Query transformations. So we have removed the punctuation marks, have got a list of all the words which were included in the text, and have got the count for those words, and have also removed the stop words from this list of words. And the last thing that we need to do is we need to exclude this table from getting loaded into our Power BI desktop. It is already provided in the challenge that we need to do it. That's why we have to do this step. So for that, I will right click on exclude words and untick this enable load checkbox by clicking on enable load. I'll click on continue. And when you see this enable load checkbox has been removed, and now I will click on close and apply. Now in Power BI desktop reports page, I'm going to use clustered bar chart as the visual. And in here, first thing that we need to bring is word on y-axis, and the count on x-axis. Now we only need to include the top 30 words. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to word, and instead of basic filtering I will do top n and show items top 30, and we need to show it by their word count. So I'll bring in count in by value and apply filter. So this is going to show me only the top 30 words. Now I will increase the canvas size. So for that, I will click anywhere outside in the canvas so that none of the visuals are selected, and go to format. And then going into canvas settings, I will choose custom as type. And for height, I will do 900. And for width, let's keep it 1280. And now let's just place this. We need to format this. So clicking on this visual, for title, we need the title as 30 most used words after removing common stop words. And let's change the font and increase the font size. Now for y-axis, we don't want the title. For values, I'll keep it to 12. And for x-axis, we don't want the title, and we also don't want values. Going into data labels and turning it on. And for values, I will increase this to 12 so that we can see them clearly. Turning its background on to match how it is shown in the challenge. And now we need to add text boxes and have dynamic text in it. So the text box says, in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the most used word after removing stop word is, and we need to give what is the most used word. So for that, I will click on value, and we will find word with highest count, and Power BI will do the job of getting us the answer. And it says 1. I will click on save and put this in quotes, which was used, and now we need to determine how many times it was used. So again, going back to value and getting highest count, 173 times. We don't want this as a decimal value, so I will give this as 0, putting it as a whole number, and save. And times, I will increase the size to 14. Out of, we need to determine how many distinct words are there. So again, going to value and asking Power BI count of distinct words, 12,303 distinct words. How many were used only once? So again, going into value and writing count of words with count of 1, and it says 8,326, and click on save. Now I will convert all of this into size 14. For the image of book and the bottom section text, it's just plain text. So I have taken a screenshot from the challenge and I'm going to insert that image. So I'll find that image and insert it here. We just need to do a bit of formatting. So going into this visual, I'll have to turn off the background. And now let us just expand this for proper formatting. And we need to have another text box for the title, which says analyzing the text of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I will give this height of 24, expand it. Let's change the font. And to match the theme, I will also change the color of these bars. So going into bars and choosing this red color. And this is how the final visual looks like. I hope you have enjoyed this one. If you like the content, then please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next one.